So this is the All Stakes Late Pick 4 on Oaklawn Saturday card. It's anchored by the Fantasy Stakes and the Arkansas Derby. So an Oaks and a Derby prep is the last ones. I'm not doing the Pick 5 just because always that last race is a crapshoot more often than not. It's an allowance N1X here, so it's a little more predictable than perhaps a maiden, but stakes are more fun. So let's go all stakes here. Leg 1 is the Oaklawn Mile. It is the 9th race on the card. It's run at a mile, of course, for 4-year-olds and up. And this is a pick'em race. I have to say right off the bat, there isn't a horse that really stands out to me in this one. I think any one of these horses can win this race. Really, what I'm looking for more than anything in a race like this is horses with upside. And to me, Midnight Rising represents the one with the most. Logical Myth is 8 years old. He's coming into the race in very good form. The last 2 races have been very solid. But again, at 8 years old, hard to trust. You'd have to wonder when is the denouement going to hit. And Logical Myth I certainly could use. But Midnight Rising is one that, again, at 4 years old, I think there's upside. Came off the bench, ran a solid race, eligible to move forward with a second start off the layoff. And as you can see, there's not a lot of early pace in this race. So being up near the leaders is tactically a very good place to be. And so for that reason, I like Midnight Rising the most. Nautical Star is a bit of a surprise to me that this one doesn't run at 2 turns more often. And I wonder about that. Now, this one is under new ownership or new trainer. I believe Chris Hartman has now got this one. Certainly in capable hands. And is coming off the bench. And at 4 years old has upside. More importantly, we've seen flashes of it on occasion. And this might be a good place for this one, particularly with this kind of wonky field. So Nautical Star, I think, is a logical use. Last Samurai, you can't argue with the back class on this track. Oaklawn is definitely where Last Samurai has done his best work. He hasn't done very much outside of Oaklawn. A mile and a 16th is generally the distance that he runs at, so you do have to wonder if the cutback maybe works against him a little bit, particularly with his later running style. He's under a new trainer. The coach is given way to Eddie Milligan. I guess Willis Horton is making the transition. He's certainly one to use. I just have a feeling that he's coming off the bench. He may not be tuned up to a peak effort. So to me, I'm thinking he's more underneath. And I'm not going to like the price. And in this field, it's really hard to take any horse that's a really short price. Frosted Grace, this is the preferred distance for Frosted Grace. It's a little troubling that this one just ran in a claiming race and now is in a graded stakes, but they've done that before with this one, so it isn't that big a deal to me. 8 years old is really more the issue, but I think again, this is one with a new trainer. I believe it's Chris Hartman as well. And just the fact that this is a preferred distance, I think Frosted Grace makes sense in here. But again, at 8 years old, a little hard to trust. Now, Dennington is a Kenny McPeak. And if you look at this race, nothing sets up well for Dennington in this race. There shouldn't be much pace to run to. He comes from the clouds. But it's Kenny McPeak. And Kenny McPeak has a way of being extremely unpredictable, and he zigs when you zag. And for that reason, and given the questionable form of a lot of the horses in this race, I'm throwing him in the mix. And, he just may be able to keep running and take it all down. At 4 years old, he does have more of an upside than a lot of others. And again, I think that's the most important thing. So to me, this is Midnight Rising's race to lose. But Dennington and Nautical Star look to be the best alternatives. 2 is the Matron Stakes. It's ungraded at $250,000. It's the 10th race on the card. It's 6 furlongs, run for 4-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. And this is in a pretty well balanced race, I'd say. Daddy's Ruby is a West Coast shipper who I really made some money on, full disclosure, a couple back. And this one's got plenty of early speed. And in these sprints, particularly in the stakes variety, it's kind of hard to back a front runner unless it's a really major league edge over the rest. And I don't know that we have that here, but I like the grit Daddy's Ruby has shown me. And I think is one that probably will get to the lead. And it has the kind of grit that can hold off all the rest of the challengers, but it may be a bit of a tall order. But Daddy's Ruby of the front runners I like. Of the pressers, Mucho Macho Girl, I think is interesting. The last race, she had it all her own way on the inside and saved a lot of ground. And so on paper, it looks maybe a little bit better a race than it actually was. But I think that she's heading in the right direction and can factor here. I'm not quite as confident on her to take it down. I think we've got other competitors in here that are probably a little more capable, but I think it's a horse you can confidently use. American Band is kind of the same variety, but she came out in her last start with a career high off the bench and showed a lot of grit. Really had to fight hard all the way around the track and still was able to hold off all the challengers to get up, and that's a really positive sign to me. I'm not sure about the top end and whether or not she has a move forward in her to pass or overtake some of the better horses in here, but I like the way she's headed. And I love the competitiveness of this horse, so I think is one to consider. Zelos is really making a name for herself at Oaklawn. She had a really solid victory last time and was clearly the best. The only thing I would say is that her speed figures aren't that much. They don't tower over the rest of this field. So, but she's just heading the right direction. One thing Steve Asmussen knows how to do is keep horses, when they're going good, stay that way for a while. So I think Zeitlos is very logical in this spot and would be my pick to win. Hoosier Filly presents a conundrum. What do you do with her? She's been running it around 2 turns primarily, and she seems to be a conditional type of horse where she needs to have everything break just right for her to be at her best. But this is a sprint, and it's starting her 4-year-old campaign. I think class-wise, she certainly has enough to be competitive here. Just don't know about her at a sprint as opposed to 2 turns. But you'd have to believe that she would certainly have the stamina to be competitive here and no doubt has the class. So I think Hoosier Filly is a logical win candidate here. Leg 3 is the Fantasy Stakes. It's the 11th race, run at 1 1/16 for 3-year-old fillies, and this is an Oaks prep. And we take a look at this field, and it's a pretty interesting one. I like Badia just the best here. I think that she's headed in the right direction and is going to be in a very good position over some of the later runners or ones who want to go mid-pack or whatnot. And I just like the way she's going, and I think she's very logical in this spot. Tappa Janali ran a pretty good second last time, but I don't know that she can repeat that or build off of it. I just don't really necessarily see that. So I think she's more one to consider for under. Lemon Muffin broke her maiden win the Honeybee, and her first time around 2 turns, certainly bred that way. And the real question will be, can she build off of it, because that was such a big effort. But I really liked what I saw from her without a doubt. And if she can run back to that or maybe a little better, she's certainly one to consider. My Main Squeeze, we don't know about around 2 turns, and we also don't know about against Open Company. She's been running against New York breds primarily, but it is an interesting ship to come over here for this race. I think she certainly, speed figure-wise, looks like a very good fit, and provided that she can get 2 turns, which I think she could probably do. You'd have to rate her as one of the more major players in here. Being on the rail, she should be able to save some ground and get in a good position. And My Main Squeeze, I think, is one we have to consider. All Things Go, I'm kind of breaking a lot of rules I have. I never like taking maidens going right into graded stakes company after they get the diploma. But in watching that race, I really liked what I saw from All Things Go. She kicked away with authority and really looked like a horse who has a lot of talent. Of course, moving to 2 turns, graded stakes company, there's a lot of questions, and it will be a tall order here. But you are going to get a price, and I think this horse has talent, so I'm willing to throw into the mix. West Omaha, to me, is, you can't like that Honeybee Stakes. What happened? She had every chance to win the race and just couldn't follow up on it. And it looked to me like she's a horse who is kind of reaching a bit of a plateau. It's either that or the Louisiana Oaks preps maybe weren't so great, and they really weren't. She has quality, but I think that last race was really telling. I just didn't like anything about it for her, and if there was an issue, certainly Brad Cox is the trainer to fix it. But I really want to go against her here because I think the price is going to be too short. So my usage would be more likely underneath. So we come to the one we're all waiting for, the final leg. It's the Arkansas Derby. It's a Grade 1. It's the 12th race on the card, running 1 1/8 for 3-year-olds. And this race has obviously some 2 prime players in here, really 3, I guess. But to me, it's a 2-horse race. It's Timberlake or it's Muth, and that's it. Time for Truth, past the 2-turn test, has shown some talent at the sprint level, but the last time they stretched her out and he passed. There is no other speed in this race, and in fact, I moved Time for Truth up to the E because I think it's logical that he will go to the lead. Wiring this field will be a tall order, but looks to have some talent and might be a sleeper in here. Of course, Timberlake is one we have to think about. He did nothing wrong in his debut in the Rebel Stakes. I do wonder about him, how long it takes him to get into stride. That's kind of my issue with Timberlake more than anything else. Certainly has the talent to win this race, and with a move forward, he's a prime win candidate. I worry a little bit about the fact that he has to be, they kept him a little farther back than I'd like him to be. They certainly could be a little more aggressive with him here. But that's really my only concern. But he's certainly a prime win candidate. Muth is obviously a quality horse. The San Vicente was just a run for fun to tune him up. The only concern we have is he would have run the Rebel, but Bob Baffert didn't like the way he was training, so he held him back. But this is a really good horse. And what I like more than anything else is the fact that he's going to be up on the engine just off the leaders. So tactically, I think he has a little bit of an advantage over Timberlake. And for that reason, he's my pick to win this race. I'll just mention Mystic Dan. I really think he was mud assisted in that Southwest Stakes. He hadn't really run anything comparable to that, not at a route anyway. And his one effort in the Smarty Jones prior to that really didn't display a whole lot. He freaked way past anything he had run before. And so I think it's a real tall order to expect him to do that again. The rail at Oaklawn on muddy days can be very favorable, and he was there and hugged the rail all the way around. It was a good ride by Brian Hernandez, but I just can't believe he's going to run back to that. He's by Golden Sense. That's not 2-turn pedigree, and so he's going to be way too short a price for me to play a guessing game to figure out if he can do it again. So I'm just going to throw him out. Will Take It to me is kind of interesting. The 2-turn effort last time, I thought, while he didn't win the race, he showed a lot of pluck and a lot of grit. And he looked like a horse who maybe is getting ready to move forward. And I think it'll be a bit of a tall order here to win this race, given Muth and Timberlake's presence. But I think he's a sleeper, and maybe you want to keep him in mind underneath at a price. Dymatic, the Rebel Stakes, he didn't, he finished kind of a disappointing fifth, but he was a little rank early. And the thing I like more than anything is he did improve. Despite the fact he finished fifth, he ran a better race than he did prior. So I think this is a horse who is on a trajectory to move forward. Whether he's good enough to win this race, I don't know. But I think he's one you have to consider, and you'll probably get some pretty good value. Liberal Arts is a closer, and certainly that is favorable. Oaklawn, a lot of times closers can do very well. And his last race, I didn't think was bad in the Rebel Stakes. I thought he ran an okay race, but I just really like Muth and Timberlake better. That's really all it comes down to. More than anything else, I think he's a horse you certainly have to consider with the late running style. I just don't know how much pace there's going to be for him to run to, and I think it's more logical for him to be underneath. So if we take a look at our ticket, we do have a couple races I think we need to spread in, and particularly the Oaklawn Mile and the Fantasy Stakes. So in leg 1, race 9, we're going to go 1, 2, 4, and 7. Leg 2, race 10, we're going to use 6 and 10. I think it's either Zetlos or Hoosier Philly. And then leg 3, race 11, we're going to spread with 1, 4, 6, and 11. And then in the Arkansas Derby, I think it's Muth or Timberlake, and that's it. And so we'll take those two. So 4x2 by 4x2 is a $64 ticket on a $1 base. And hopefully we can get some value in our spread races to make this a decent payout.